Hi, I'm Andrew Wasson. Thanks for joining me for my weekly guitar blog. It's June 8th, 2014, and this week we're going to do a lesson on a philosophy for playing effortless, smooth guitar. Now, this week's question was sent in from Allan. He's out in Willowdale, Ontario, Canada. He wrote in with this email: I've been jamming on guitar for a while, 11 years now, and I can play fairly decent. I can solo. I'm doing some songwriting and some recording. My question is more directed at a philosophy for playing effortless guitar. I especially find things difficult when I'm playing live or when I'm recording. Every time negative thoughts enter my mind, I either mess up or I don't play as well as I can play when my mind is calm and relaxed. Could you speak on this? From Allan in Willowdale, Ontario, Canada. Well, hey, thanks for writing in, Allan. You know, when it comes to individual philosophies concerned with playing fluid and smooth and keeping a focused mind, or just being able to flow in a relaxed, effortless way while you're jamming, there are definitely areas that we should address. The most important area being the ability that musicians eventually must develop to control and balance our artful and creative side with our musical experience at any one given moment in time. Whether this is time on stage, or time recording in the studio, or time spent composing, once we can learn to control our field of thought, we can produce large amounts of work, we can enjoy the process, and we can feel good about sharing it. Having the ability to maintain a solid focus while performing any musical idea must be developed. It just doesn't happen to you automatically. And the main component of this type of training is all mental. We have to develop ourselves to the point where even though we might have an awareness for what's going on in our peripheral area around us, next to no conscious thought should be wasted on it. Now, as an exercise, try playing the phrase that I have here with all of your collective conscious focused on the musical value of your performance. So focus yourself on achieving the best picking, the best fretting hand ability, the best dynamics, and the best timing and all that stuff. In other words, play this repeating phrase until you begin to literally feel it in your collective conscious. So really feel this thing. Now, the phrase is fairly simple. We're going to have an A major chord and a connecting phrase off of it. Then we're going to head over to an E major in first inversion with that G sharp in the bass there, and then we're going to have a phrase off that. So I'll just play it for you, just try and get really into the phrase, and I'll play it several times. Here we go. So, when you play something, you really get into it. I think the next thing that we need to talk somewhat on is the idea of famous musicians. They seem to have what comes across as just an unbreakable focus for their performances. Now, I'd be very surprised if the world's famous musicians out there aren't connected to a sound philosophy for formulating their musical approach. Generally, famous guitar players, of course, have great technique. They're very effective, and they have incredible sophistication for the art of music. And a large part of this comes from their ability to disconnect from their personal life while playing their music. For example, I'm going to get you to learn another phrase here. It's going to be a melody, and play this thing down thinking only of how wonderful that you could execute this melody. That's all I want you to think about. So we're going to do that first, and then we're going to try and turn the tables on it a little. So the idea of the melody is it's going to come here from the 10th fret A note up on 2nd string. It's going to run down the notes of the E minor scale. You can tell it's also got that 16th note triplet in there. So I'm just going to play this thing down. I'm going to try and really get into it and think real good positive vibes here. All right, now we're going to do this again, but this time we're going to turn the tables on this whole thing and try playing it again, thinking of some really bad stuff, really negative experiences that perhaps have happened in the past and that really bum you out or whatever they may be. And I just want you to think, while you're doing that, and really more notice the difference in your overall performance. So here we go. I just, I even thinking of some really rotten things, it just doesn't, I don't even feel like playing guitar anymore. I just feel like just dropping the thing and going doing something else altogether. It really drops you down several notches if your mind isn't focused on thinking of some really good, uplifting, positive thoughts in your mind. So anyway, very interesting experiment. You're going to have to try it yourself to really get the full gist of it. Well, next I'd like to discuss objectivity for a moment. See, keeping more of a remote attitude, more of a neutral stance away from our work and from our performances will help to not only get the work completed in a professional way and get it done quickly, but it has the added benefit of being able to dissociate from any bad or upsetting musical or personal experiences that might get in the way of a real top-notch performance. And we'll always run into some problems, and we'll always have to deal with some people who might have very different or sometimes very strange or difficult personalities to us. However, the effectiveness with which we can move past these problems will be our true road to higher development as musicians. So next I'd like to have you perform the following guitar part, and while performing it, just focus your thoughts on times when you had vivid, excellent, powerful musical performances, and have those experiences become the foundation for the central or core thought process while you perform this part. So remember to just carefully choose the emotions and think of the times that you hold in very high regard for your playing skills. So it's a very straightforward thing. You can keep your mind focused on all kinds of other stuff while you're doing this. It's just a basic rhythm guitar part going B minor 7 to C major 7. And then we're going to have an E minor 7 shooting down to a D major. That's all it is. Goes like this. Anyway, I want to move on to another area with this stuff now. It's kind of the final leg of everything, and it has to do with, I think, a very important concept to try and keep up every week in your guitar playing. And it has to do with the fact that musicians tend to be philosophical by nature. And as we reach higher levels of our professional career, where all of our income is made strictly from our musical endeavors, we will inevitably become more and more philosophical over time. Now, with the growth of our professional duties, with increased responsibilities and obligations, our fun time, our pleasure for just playing and composing music can often get lost in the day-to-day shuffle. Now, to maintain a sense of value for why we started into this field in the first place, it's important to manifest some kind of positive jam experience at least once throughout your week. Now, perhaps that might be meeting with a group of other players to run a few songs down, or maybe all you have time for is to just performing along with a jam track. But regardless of what your jam encompasses, stay dedicated to performing along with someone or something like a jam track at least once a week. I think jamming and interaction with good people will really help to maintain a strong musical philosophy. So before we wrap things up, I'm just going to have a jam here on a little bit of have some little bit of fun with the chord progression that we had from our previous example. So that was that chord progression where I had the B minor chord coming up into the C and then the E minor into the D. So I've got that on a loop pedal. I'm just going to fire that up and I'm just going to sort of jam on it for fun here a little bit. Here we go. Well, as you can tell from the concepts we've run through in this video, there's a lot to be said for a musician remaining highly focused. As we develop our skills, we target things like technique, scales, intervals, and note patterns, and we assume that these areas are pretty much all there is to being a good musician. And if we can, just gain enough mastery over these areas, we'll eventually perfect the art of music. However, these areas only identify and isolate the surface attributes, because the real art comes from having excellent mental balance, and the implications for our future success mostly ride on our philosophy and our non-artistic control, rather than on our ability to, say, perhaps play complex technical ideas, super fast or something. But anyway, that's about all the time I have for today. As always, thanks for watching. Have yourself a great week, and we'll catch up with you next time. Bye for now.